Hey guys, how is it going? For this one, let's check a monster tier list. Being specific, this is a personal opinion of who's fun to fight and who isn't. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Let's begin with the great and something extra. As introductory monsters, I believe they fulfill their role perfectly. Nothing crazy, but also nothing particularly exciting. Perhaps the first time I fought a great whatever, it was an interesting fight, but they also get boring quite fast. All of them go to D tier. Kulu is perhaps the first one that goes out of the way to pull something different. Personally, I enjoy fighting this monster. It is B tier. Arzuros is one of those first monsters that you get to know with a complete different moveset. Here it depends a bit, because fighting Arzuros is a first good experience, but also as it is one of those first monsters you don't get to see much about it. It is B tier. Lagombi is perhaps some of those first monsters that you don't really wanna slay the heck out of it, but you end up doing it anyways. Also, it is a fun experience because this freaking wabbit is able to levitate. It is A tier. Volvidon was such a good experience. Sadly, I believe it is the only monster that uses this whatever move is called to sting. As a lance player, it is not a hard hunt, but kinda fun to fight. It is B tier. Aknosom is maybe the first big step for those joining to the franchise, and personally I like that some of these first monsters have good weapons to use later in the game. Nothing particularly great, but it is a good fight. It is A tier. Royal Ludroth is one of those monsters that personally look good, but I end up forgetting almost right away. I don't really know why, but I don't like to fight this monster. Maybe to get some materials, but after that I get bored about it so fast. It is C tier. Barroth usually brings one of those hunts that I enjoy, but I have a kind of mixed feeling in Rise because it has a decent armor set that you can use in defensive settings, but in Rise this monster feels a bit awkward. It is C tier. Khezu is a monster that I love and hate so much at the same time, because it kinda reminds me to a boss from Castlevania that I enjoyed, but also it is perhaps one of those first monsters that has this annoying paralysis attack that you are not able to guard with ease because it is early in the game. It is A tier. Tetranadon brings some interesting moveset, but all its attacks are really slow. Either way, I had a lot of fun with it. Personally, I like that weird nature of a sumo wrestler or whatever it is. It is A tier. Bishaten is our first monkey in the list, and I enjoy this fight because it is one of those few monsters that uses walls or some other things to actually attack. And after you beat the heck out of it, Bishaten throws a lot of fruits that you can use to attack. I don't really use them, but it is a fun dumb detail that I like. It is A tier. Pukei is a monster that bores the heck out of me real fast, not sure why. I love its weapons because it is one of those few poison lances that you can use in most of the game, but fighting Pukei personally is a bit boring after a couple of hunts. It is D tier. I am not sure how to pronounce the name of the following monster, so I'll just name it Plesioth Lost Brother along with Lavasiot. Jura brings those Vietnam memories of freaking hip checks and how annoying they can be. Yeah, in Rise they are not like they used to, but just because of that I don't get bored of fighting this monster. And also, it is not as annoying as Lavasiot. It is A tier. Basarios is the first monster that I enjoyed fighting in Rise because it has those terrible multipliers before throwing fire, and once the fight gets heat up, there is an interesting change. I truly love these dynamic battles. It is S tier. Somanacanth brings an interesting armor set to throw barrels all over the place. I like fighting it, but also get bored a bit fast. Maybe because it doesn't bring something extraordinary to the table. I like those random attacks to stun or sleep, but also they are quite slow to execute. It is B tier. Rathian feels really slow and awkward in this game. I usually like to fight against it, but in Rise it bored me after a couple of hunts. However, its weapons are solid ones in terms of poison. It is a tier. Barioth is a monster that looks cool, but I don't find it entertaining to fight. Personally, I think it looks pretty well to just throw some random weak RC attacks. It is D tier. Tobi-Kadashi is another of those monsters that I get bored quite fast. It has an interesting moveset, but not as impressive as I would like it to be. Perhaps in those fierce fights, it has some great attacks, but as I hunt it, it grows boring. It is C tier. Magnamalo is a monster that I love to fight so much, because it brings a salty memory from the demo, as well as the Super Magnamalo from the event quest. It is a fast-paced battle with tons of random attacks that I enjoy so much. It is S tier. I believe Anjanath is one of those first big monsters we see in this game. Maybe a bit too much brute force, but it is a monster that I enjoy hunting. Nothing particularly crazy, but just watching those full ground pounds is entertaining. It is A tier. Tigrex is a classic. I remember that the first time I fought against it, I had a lot of fun. But perhaps it has been so many fights I have hunted it that the Rise version feels a bit washed out. It is C tier. Narga brings those classic moves from so long that once you have seen them, you have seen everything about this monster. It is not a walk in the park the first times, but it is also one of those battles that grow boring for me. It is C tier. I could say something similar for Mizutsune, but this is actually one of those monsters that it's a lot of fun. It moves all over the place, and those bubbles along with Bubble Light are just a lot of fun. It is A tier. Goss-Harag is boring as heck for me. I am not going to deny that it has some interesting moves, but they are so slow that it feels a bit boring after a couple of hunts. D tier. Rathalos is a monster that has been used so many times, but it has something that doesn't bore me in the least. It feels refreshing in every game, and I like to hunt it countless times. It is not a crazy battle, but one that I actually enjoy. It is A tier. Zinogre brings some mixed feelings to the table, because I find boring to fight against it after a couple of hunts. But a pet Zinogre is a completely different story. Perhaps it is because of that dynamic and amazing battle that it brings. For some reason, the normal Zinogre is boring, but Capcom most of the times brings something interesting for the other Zinogre variations. It is B and S tier, respectively. Almudron is a monster that I love and hate at the same time, almost like Khezu. Because the first times I found it kinda hard to hunt, but after a couple of times I had a lot of fun fighting against it. And it also has some interesting moves. It is A tier. Diablos is a straightforward fight as a lance player. Despite looking menacing, it is an easy battle, because you just put the shield in front of you and that's it. On the other hand, Apex Diablos goes nuts in terms of brute force. It is still a straightforward fight, but definitely one that I enjoy much more, just because those displays of brute force that can get you card with ease. It is C and S tier respectively. I simply love to fight Rakna, because it is not an orthodox battle. It has some great and terrible multipliers as you fight it, and also it changes throughout the whole hunt, along with some interesting attacks that deal good chunks of damage. It is S tier. Valstrax, El Dragón Cometa Celestial, or whatever the heck it is named in some places, is a lot of fun to hunt too. Maybe not my preferred hunt, but one that I like because those crazy RC attacks. 1 second is on the ground, and at the next one it is up in the sky, ready to wreck the heck out of you. S tier. Kushala Daora has some amazing moves that can destroy the best defensive sets, but most of its attacks are quite easy to avoid, even being a turtle like the classic Lance player. I fought against it several times just because it is not a super easy fight for the endgame, but it is a hunt that goes a bit boring after a couple of tries. It is C tier. Teostra is a terrible match for the Lance if you are a beginner. I remember that I struggled a bit against this monster, but once you get into the attacks and guards, it is a hunt that I like so much, because you can go nuts with guards and pokes at the same time. It is S tier. Rathian got so nerfed in this game that it doesn't feel as the old freaking Rathian that was feared by many. It keeps some interesting moves, but it is not that great of a fight in Rise. It feels really slow that you can avoid many of its attacks with little to no effort. It is C tier. Basil. This game was the first time I saw this monster, and I immediately fell in love with it. It is not a hard fight in Rise, but it is a lot of fun, and it throws so many materials that even after fighting it over 200 times, I still enjoy fighting it. It is triple freaking S tier. Camellius. I believe is more like a meme rather than some amazing monster. Yep, it is an Elder Dragon, but it is not particularly great because it moves so slow, and it is a shame that poison can be cured with such ease that even if it is a better kind of poison, it feels a bit on the weak side, even for an Elder. It is B tier. Ibushi and Narwa are some of those hunts that feel so much orchestrated that they didn't bring a particular emotion to me. You can use different kind of helps in the stage that the battle can be washed down so bad. It doesn't feel like it is some kind of last boss. On the other hand, All Mother Narwa has an interesting setting. It is also orchestrated as heck, but the combination of music and the possibility to get an Elder or Magna in the middle of the battle hypes so much this hunt that I simply loved it. It is C and S tier respectively. Apex Arzuros is a kind of standard Arzuros on steroids. I definitely enjoyed the one-shot card Arzuros Arcade Super Apex version, but its normal Apex is a bit boring for me. I can hunt it a couple of times and then I don't wanna see it anymore. It is D tier. Apex Rathian brings some amazing moves and those annoying poison spikes that poison the player just by getting close. This is a battle where position changes the whole panorama. And I also like to see different ways to apply poison compared to the standard methods of speeding. It is A tier. Apex Mizutsune is so far a terrible waste of a great idea, because I still see so much potential in having a kind of weird arse weapon with blast and water damage. However, Apex Mizutsune is more of a flashy fight, because some of its moves are just to show off and then it attacks. I have some mixed feelings on this one. It is B tier. Apex Rathalos is a hunt with some pyromaniac feeling all over the place. Balls of fire everywhere, and some impressive attacks here and there. Despite of it not being a hard battle, I enjoy so much hunting this monster. It is S tier. And that's it. Sometimes the feeling of some monsters changes, but that is due to interesting quests where you are able to fight two monsters at the same time. For example, Diablos and Tigrex in the same stage is a hunt that I gladly take any day of the week, but it is through specific case scenarios that I enjoy them. I hope Sunbreak brings some crazy monsters to have more fun. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.